a lot of buzz around Wyatt right now, so I just wanted to go back to two stories we've talked about before. One, what was the process of moving down in the draft? Because you knew you were going to get him, and I think a lot of the credit goes to Joe McDonnell. And then two, what was the process of having Wyatt live with Joe Pavelski?
Yeah, well, actually, it was in this rink here is where we scouted Wyatt. It was the under-18s World Championships took place here in Frisco during the COVID year. It was one of the few places we could skate at. So you guys are in the arena that all the games were played pretty well, that he played for Canada. But the process was, you mentioned we moved down. You never know. But Joe McDonnell and his staff had a real good feel where they thought Wyatt was going to fall in the draft. They did their homework. Who are the other players available and stuff. And you just you get that feeling of where you think he might go. And, considering it was a COVID year, he played 7 games that year. And so it's not like he was a highly visible player. But once again, Joe and his staff did a great job. And we're pretty confident that if we moved down to a certain spot, we'd still get him. And we're fortunate we did. I got the pick that we used to pick Logan Stankoven with. So it worked out well. As far as 2 years down the road, he went back, played in the OHL that year, and he was the MVP of the OHL, had a great playoff there, and then we brought him in, and you never know, is he going to be ready or not? You can say he is, but Pete and I talked, and we said, let's give him the 9 games. It looks like he's doing well. And I still remember we made a trip, it was going to be, I think, games 7, 8, 9 of our season that year. It was through Toronto, Montreal, and Boston. And we knew that was going to be a pretty, a kind of a sign, how close is he, or is he going to start falling off? First of all, he's going back home to Toronto. A lot of pressure, family, and playing in Toronto, his hometown. Montreal, another mecca hockey place. And then the Montreal-Boston was a back-to-back. And I remember talking to Pete and saying, it's a back-to-back, and he's a young guy. Should we sit him out? And we decided not to. We're a little bit worried he's going to be going into Boston on a back-to-back, playing against Bergeron Krejci, their center iceman at the time. And how's he going to hold up? I believe he scored that night and was one of our best players. And I remember talking to Pete afterwards and saying, I think he's going to stay. And when we made that decision to stay, we decided, he's only 19 years old. Been living in billets, never done his own cooking, laundry, paying bills, all that. So we started thinking, is it best that, we talked about some teammates, and is it best to ask some of the teammates to take him in? And Joe Pavelski was the one name that came up, him and his wife, Sarah, and their son, Nate. And we asked Joe would he like to take him in, and right away he said, yes, he's mine, I got him. And here they are 2 years later, still living there. He's part of the family. It's been great mentorship for Wyatt, but also I think it's been great for the Pavelski family. They've become great friends and mentors to him, and vice versa. Him and Nate are playing street hockey all the time, and floor hockey, and playing video games. So it's just been a great fit. And as you guys have seen, he's been a great player for us.
Front row on the left.
Jim, your name is on the cup with Ken Hollins 4 times. So I have 3 questions. 1, how did that experience prepare you for this? What's it mean to you to build your own team as a GM? And 3, what do you think the job Ken's done in Edmonton?
Well, Kenny and I go way back. We played junior together in Medicine Hat. He was 20 years old. I was 17, and he was, kind of took me under his wings a little bit. He was our goalie, and I was a young rookie coming in. So we built a relationship there. Now we go our own ways playing pro hockey. He played down Adirondack. I ended up coming to Detroit later on. He got into the management side. When I was finished playing in Detroit, Jimmy DeVolano asked me to get into the management side, and I did, and I followed Kenny's path. He became one of my mentors. Him, Kenny Holland, Jimmy DeVolano, Scotty Bowman. I got to work under those men, and so that meant so much to me to be able to learn from some of the greatest minds in the game, be part of that, and they made me part of their wisdom and their knowledge, and I eventually Kenny got promoted to general manager. He promoted me to assistant general manager, and we were together for almost 20 years there. As you mentioned, 4 names on our cup. We probably left 3 or 4 on the table. That's how competitive it is, but we had that good at teams. And I learned so much from those 3 men, including Kenny. And our families are good good friends. We know each other well, and that so means a lot coming here and playing against him. And a lot that I learned from those days, and it's not easy. It's you think you're ready, but you're never ready till you are. And but the things I learned from them was very important. And now here he is. I remember him calling me when he had the opportunity. He stepped aside so Stevie could come in, and right away he got a call from Edmonton. And he called me late at night. He was over in Europe and said, "Jim, what do you think?" And we walked through it, and I gave him my words of wisdom, and we hashed through it, and here he is. He's now got them on the cusp, same place we are, and he's just done a great job in a high-pressure environment. And he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason, and that's why we're here now.
Front row center.
Hey, Jim. When you look back to bringing in Pete, what was it about him that made you think that he could make an immediate impact in the way that he has here?
I was fortunate to meet Pete way back in his junior days when he was, Windsor and then Kitchener winning the Memorial Cup, and watched his career along the way. He went to Florida, New Jersey, had success there. We actually hooked up in the World Championships 2015, and in 2015 in Prague, won gold medal, and got to know him there even better. Now he's a pro coach and saw his mentality, and then watched his success in San Jose and Vegas, and his record speaks for itself. You see what he's done, how he's handled situations. It's what I told our players and our staff before the season started. I go in every night knowing that we're all prepared. We got a chance to win every night. Doesn't mean you're going to win every night, but I know because of what Pete's put in place, we have a chance to win every night. And that's a pretty good feeling when you're a general manager.
Front left.
Pete, you got a bunch of veterans on your team, Ryan, Joe, Jamie, and Matt, guys of over 1,000 games. Ryan's, I think, close to 1,500. What have they meant to this group, and how much of a rallying cry is it for these guys without a cup to get them over the hump?
Well, what they meant to the group is everything. I mean, they set the culture for our dressing room. They set the culture for our work ethic. They set the culture for our messaging to the room and to the players. I don't think there's any doubt that our group recognizes that those guys are on the back nine, and there's a lot of great players there that haven't won a cup, and I think our group knows that. But what those guys have done is they put their money where their mouth is. I mean, they've all taken less of a role. They were all prominent players throughout their career. First power play, in Suit's case, 25 minutes a night. In some of the, in Pav's case, every situation. They've all taken less, in order to let some of these young guys emerge and play bigger roles. And, that's been the key to our depth and our success.
And Jim, I just want to go back to the 21 draft. And what was it like as a manager, whether you felt like you had one hand tied behind your back, the scouts couldn't see guys in Ontario or in a lot of Canada up close? What was it like? I mean, and that decision to go with Wyatt eventually, like what was the process of just the entire draft process?
Well, it was tough for the whole league. You've got some leagues were playing, some weren't. Some people were playing in Europe, some weren't. So many unknowns. Once again, but a lot of the, we all, they all do a good job of drafting, and they cover underage players, and that's where this came into play. Was you need to know something about the player as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, and teams have done that, and that's where I get back to. That's where our staff did a good job. They did a lot of digging. They found out a lot about the player, and I still remember it was a virtual draft that year because of COVID, and talking to Joe before, I said, Joe, are you sure? Are you sure this is your guy? Because we're going off of limited information, and he was adamant, and his staff was that this is the guy, and they made the decision. They made the right call.
Front row on the right.
Hey, Pete, what stands out when you think back to your process of building a relationship here with Jamie Benn, and what makes him unique and special as a captain?
Well, Benner's an easy guy to build a relationship with. He's the same way with coaches as he is with players in his room. He's the most humble guy in the room. He's the quietest guy usually in the room he's in, but he's also very approachable. And and he wears his heart on his sleeve. There's never any doubt of what he's thinking or where his motivations are. Just a beloved teammate, by the guys in the room. And I think as a coach, it's easy to get to know a guy like that. He's an open book. There's no agenda there other than wanting to win. And that was my first conversation with him. I was coming in, sitting down a guy, who has won the scoring title, won an Olympic medal, and asking him to play on a third line with a 19-year-old rookie centerman and take 3 or 4 less minutes a night. And, he didn't blink an eye. It was, if this helps us win, I'm all in. And so, you'd love 20 of those guys.
Go second row on the left.
That's the second time you've mentioned veteran players kind of taking a step back to allow guys to come in there. I know it's not easy to strike that balance. So what goes into having your guys being able to step up to grab the piece that they need to grab, but also leaving enough space so that everyone gets to grab part of what you do?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. I mean, that's the balance. I think you have to be at the point in your career where it's the number one priority on your list. Is winning a Stanley Cup. And I think, we've got a group of veterans that are at that point in their career. It's not about personal accolades or about money or about other things. So you have to get to that point first. And we've got a group that is all there. And then, and then the other piece of that is, I obviously, and we as coaches have to make sure that we still recognize how important those guys are situationally every night, by putting them still in important spots, even though they're taking a little bit less.
And sorry, just one more before I move on. Joe Pavelski talked about you doing a really good job of building Stanley Cup habits into this team since the beginning of the year. What are some of the main Stanley Cup habits you think a team needs to have?
Yeah. Well, I just think not beating yourself. And, how do you beat yourself in the playoffs? It's usually penalties. We're the least penalized team in the league and in the playoffs, regular season and playoffs, or 1-2. Puck management, that was something that has been a work in progress all year. But, we've got to the point where we found that line where, we know when to try and make a play and when not to. Playing with the lead. And shutting down when you have that opportunity, in a time right now where it's really tough to do that. You see leads blown all over the place, left and right. So, all those things have been a work in progress.
Front row center.
Hi, Pete. Did Rupe and Yanni skate today, and what's Jake's status right now?
Yanni did not skate. Rupe skated pretty extensively before we got out there and looked good. And I would term him day to day. And Jake got out early, stayed for most of practice, but was feeling a little under the weather, so he went off.
You think he'll be okay for
No injuries, just.
and you think he'll be fine for tomorrow, Jake?
Yeah, I don't foresee any issues. No.
Third row on the left.
Pete, Wyatt scored 23 of his 32 goals in the second half of the season. Did anything change in the way he played, or was it just a matter of him learning and progressing?
No, and I don't think anything changed. And actually, the impressive part of that was just prior to Christmas, I think he went 18 games without a goal. And, anybody that scores or is counted on to score, when you go that kind of a streak without scoring, they usually wear it. They wear it around the rink every day. They wear it at practice. They're getting down on themselves. The most impressive part for me was you never knew that he was in a slump. Every day he showed up and was still doing all the little things, still carried himself the same way, same attitude. And our messaging to him was, and he was getting looks, it was just, they're not going in, stick with it. But he was unflappable during that time. So much maturity for a kid his age in that situation. And, and it turned for him down the second half, but he wasn't doing anything differently. If you take that 18 game string out, he probably scores 40.
First row center.
Hi, Jim. Pete mentioned that a lot of the veterans set the culture and the tone in the locker room, but when I've talked to the players throughout the year, they always point back to you as the one that starts it, that you're really the leader setting that culture. In 2013, when you got here, is this kind of the culmination of your vision of that perennial contender, and is this the closest room you've had?
Yeah, when you come into an organization, there's a reason there's some changes that are going to happen, and it takes time. And we've been very fortunate. But I go back to the players here have really grabbed it. It's getting the right people in place, and it doesn't matter whether you're in sports or what business you're in. It's about people and relationships. And we've got good people in place right from the front office, the coaching staff, to the players. They've grabbed it. And it's a culmination of all those things together that they've bought into it. They want to win. I love what Pete says. In training camp, we talked about this. It's about taking a little bit less to get more. And, we talked about the older players. When it's more important the 2 points in the standings than the 2 points you may get in the game, your team's in the right spot. And that's where we're at with this team. And it goes back to our leadership, starts with the coaches, staff. But this is what you envision. Yeah, you want your organization to get to a place where you get a chance to make the playoffs every year. You want to be in the mix. And it's not easy in this league. It's 32 teams, 16 make it, 16 don't. And it's a tough league that way. And the parity is unbelievable. You saw the teams at 100 plus points and teams with 90 points not making it. It is tough. It's a tough league. The parity's never been more. You look at the Final Four, they're all legit Stanley Cup worthy champion teams. And it's great for the league, but that also, to make those playoffs year after year, year after year, that's the most important part. And that's where I think our organization's got to now, which is important.
Second row on the left.
Hey, Pete. You talked about staying out of the box, which is obviously important going up against the Oilers. But when you do have to kill a penalty, what makes their power play so challenging? And what have you seen maybe from the last series with the Canucks? They went 11 in a row, killing off 11 straight penalties.
Yeah. Well, what makes? Sorry, are you talking
Edmonton's power play? So dangerous.
Edmonton's power play. Okay. I thought you were talking 11 and 0. I thought you were talking about Edmonton's penalty kill.
No, the Canucks killed 11 straight penalties against the Oilers in the last year.
Okay, all right. Well, the best penalty kill is stay out of the box. And again, like I told you, we don't take penalties. So, and I don't anticipate that changing. If you do, there's no doubt they build momentum off that. And, we have to make sure you're aware. We talked in our penalty kill meeting just about, this power play particularly because of the setup and the five guys and the fact that they play most of the 2 minutes. Your detail in your entire group has to be bang on. Stick positioning, assignments, responsibilities, bearing down on little things, details, clears, face-offs, things like that. So Colorado had a great power play, and we had to deal with that. I thought Vegas actually had a really good power play, got a couple power play goals early. I think this one's probably at a little bit of a different level than those, but similar mindsets.
Anything else? Third row on the right.
This is for both of you. Pete, you mentioned yesterday on the ticket that you had heard from Ken Hitchcock and many of the 99 Cup winning stars either sending notes or being around, and both for Jim and for Pete. What does that do to have that kind of continuity between a Cup championship team and your current squad trying to do that?
Well, I think anytime you win a Cup, there's a pedigree and an experience that goes with that. And, Ken was one of our coaches here. Ken Hitchcock did a great job of really instilling a lot of the things that we needed to put in place. We had a young team at the time. We hadn't made that next step. And a lot of the things that we're seeing now, he had a lot of input in that. And so, like I said, he's been a Dallas Star for a long time. He's in our Hall of Fame. And I think he lives and breathes Dallas Stars hockey. So it's great when you have former coach connecting with our coaching staff and sharing what he's watching in the games and everything else. And as far as having the players around, it's great. You know, when you see former players that have won that cup and how they're excited for this next group of guys. You know, Jamie Benn played with some of these guys. Joe Pavelski's played, and Suter, they've played against these guys that have won cups. So it's a great connection that way, and I think it just makes it exciting for everyone.
Front left.
Two quick ones. I want to make sure my memory and facts are right. You brought Joe McDonnell, Mark Leach from Detroit when you came here, right? Anybody else?
Correct. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And McDonnell, obviously, big role in Wyatt Johnston. Any other players I should note that he had a big role in draft?
Well, he's my director of amateur scouting. So all the players, majority of the players, 3/4 of them have been through his drafting and stuff, and the staff. And there's other staff that were here before, Rickard Onquist, Kari Taco, those guys. That's the Rupi Hintzes and the Essa Lindells. So we've got a great staff that have come together. Some of them were here before I came here, did a great job, and then they've joined forces with Joe and Mark and other staff, and they've done a great job with all these players. You know, Logan Stankovens, Liam Bischel, Maverick Bork just won the AHL scoring title and was the MVP of the AHL and first All-Star team. You know, what a great year he's having. He's just turned 21, I believe. So we got some great young kids coming, and it's what excites me about our team right now is just the mix of players. We got the older veterans. You know, we talk about the Pavelskis, the Suters, the Benns, the Sagans. We've got another core of guys, you know, the Jake Ottingers, Rupe Hintz, Jason Robertson, and then there's another group of guys that have come in, the Thomas Harleys, Logan Stanko and Wyatt Johnson. These guys have come in. So a real good mix in the room of different, eras of hockey, but they've really come together. And, you know, the young guys bring energy, the old guys bring the wisdom, and some nights the old guys are bringing the energy and the young guys are pretending they got wisdom, trying to spread it around. So, but it's a great mix, great dressing room, and with the work the coaching staff has done, that's one of the big reasons why we're here right now.
All good. Thank you, gentlemen.